I still remember the exact moment my world shattered. The fluorescent lights in that sterile conference room hummed like a swarm of angry bees. My hands were trembling as I clutched the coffee mug I'd brought from home, the one with "World's Best Team Player" printed on it, a silly gift from my colleagues 2 years earlier. I had given everything to Apex Solutions. 7 years of my life, late nights, weekends, sacrificed. Holidays spent troubleshooting systems while my family celebrated without me. I was their rock, the senior project manager who kept everything afloat. Clients loved me, my team trusted me, and I believed, with every fiber of my heart, that loyalty still mattered. But that morning, everything changed. Alina, my boss, Richard, said, not even looking me in the eyes, "We're making some difficult decisions to stay competitive. We have to let you go." Effective immediately, the words hit like ice water. I sat there, stunned, as HR slid the severance papers across the table. 2 months' pay. That was all I was worth after pouring my soul into their success. "Why?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Budget cuts," Richard replied flatly. "We need to save money." Nothing personal. Nothing personal. Those 2 words carved themselves into my chest. I had missed my niece's birthday for their emergency deadline. I had turned down a better offer from a rival company because I believed in them. I had defended Richard when everyone else whispered he was incompetent. And this was how they repaid me to save money. I walked out of that building with a cardboard box containing my photos, my awards, and the dying plant I'd kept alive on my desk for years. Tears blurred the parking lot lights as I drove away. I felt broken, exposed, utterly destroyed. How could people you trusted so deeply turn on you the moment it benefited them? That night, I sat on my apartment floor surrounded by the pieces of my old life, sobbing until my chest hurt. I kept replaying Richard's cold voice in my head. Nothing personal, but it was personal. It was my life, my future, my dignity. I didn't sleep. Instead, I opened my laptop and started digging. I went through every email, every project file I still had access to, every conversation I'd saved, and slowly, the fog of pain lifted just enough for something sharper to emerge: clarity. They thought firing me would save them money. They had no idea they had just created their biggest threat. The weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. I felt invisible, discarded, like I had never mattered. Friends offered pitying looks and empty promises. To keep me in mind, my mother kept saying, "Something better will come, honey." But I didn't want something better. I wanted justice. I started small. I reached out to former clients who had always preferred working with me. Many were shocked to hear I'd been let go. "You were the only reason we stayed with Apex," one of them confessed. That gave me my first spark of hope. With my severance and a small loan from my savings, I started a tiny consulting firm from my living room. Just me, my laptop, and a secondhand desk. I worked 18-hour days. Reaching out to every contact I'd built over 7 years, I poured my pain into every proposal, every late-night strategy session. The betrayal fueled me. Every time doubt crept in, I remembered Richard's face when he fired me. I was just another expense line on a spreadsheet. But the real turning point came when I discovered something I wasn't supposed to know. Through a former colleague who still trusted me, I learned the truth. They didn't fire me just to save money. Richard had pushed for it because he wanted to bring in his inexperienced niece at half my salary. My performance reviews had been glowing, but they fabricated budget issues to justify letting their most valuable player go. The company was already struggling: poor decisions, lost contracts, and a toxic culture that chased away talent. They were bleeding money, and they thought removing me would patch the wound. That revelation didn't just break my heart further, it ignited a fire I didn't know I carried. I stopped crying. I started planning. I refined my consulting business, specializing in the exact systems and client relationships Apex had relied on. Word spread fast in our tight industry. Within months, I had more work than I could handle alone. I hired 2 brilliant freelancers who had also been burned by similar companies. Together, we built something real, something honest. There were still hard days, nights when the loneliness and anger threatened to swallow me whole. I'd stare at old photos of my team, celebrations, and feel the sting of betrayal all over again. But every new client, every positive review, every dollar earned became proof that I wasn't nothing. I was everything they threw away. And while I rebuilt, Apex continued to crumble. I watched from afar as they lost major accounts, some of them to me. Richard sent passive emails pretending to check in, clearly fishing for information. I never replied. Let them wonder. The shift inside me was powerful. The woman who once begged for fairness became someone who demanded respect. Not with anger, but with quiet, unstoppable excellence. I stopped seeing myself as the victim. I became the architect of my own comeback. 18 months later, the moment I had dreamed of finally arrived. Apex Solutions was drowning. Bad investments, lost clients, and mounting debts had pushed them to the edge of bankruptcy. When I received the confidential listing through a discreet broker, I almost laughed through my tears. The company that had thrown me away like garbage was now for sale. I didn't go in alone. I had built a strong team, secured investors who believed in my vision, and raised enough capital to make a serious offer. When I walked into that same conference room this time as a buyer, the looks on their faces were priceless. Richard went pale. The CEO, who had signed my termination papers without a second thought, stammered through pleasantries. I sat across from them, calm and composed, in the same chair where my heart had once been crushed. "We're here to discuss the acquisition," I said, my voice steady. "I believe you know me." The negotiations were swift. They had no real options left. In the end, I bought the company that had fired me. For a fraction of what it was worth when I worked there, on my first day as the new owner, I gathered the remaining staff. Richard was no longer there. He had been quietly let go weeks earlier when the sale became inevitable. I stood in front of people who had once been my colleagues and spoke from the heart. "I know what it feels like to be discarded," I told them. "I know the pain of giving everything and receiving nothing in return. But this company has a new beginning today. We will rebuild it with integrity, with loyalty, and with respect for every person who shows up and does the work." Some cried. Others hugged me. The energy in the room shifted from fear to cautious hope. In the months that followed, we turned the company around. I brought back several talented people who had left after me. We won back clients with better service and transparency, and every decision I made carried the memory of that painful day. To Richard, wherever he is now, I hope he learned that treating people as disposable always comes back around. You cannot throw away loyalty and expect the universe to forget. As for me, I found peace not in revenge alone, but in rising above it, in proving that what they broke, I could rebuild stronger. The woman who left that building with a cardboard box now owns the entire company. If there's one lesson I want you to carry from my story, it's this. Never let them convince you that your value is negotiable. When someone betrays you, let the pain fuel your purpose. Build so beautifully that your comeback becomes their regret. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming undeniable, and I am living proof.